September 24th, 2025. Hours after delivering his delusional and offensive speech to the United Nations yesterday, President Donald J. Trump did an about-face on his previous support for Russia in its war against Ukraine. After he met with Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky, his social media account posted, "I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form," which would be before Russia's 2014 invasion of Crimea. Trump noted the profound toll the war is taking on Russia's economy and speculated that Ukraine might even be able to take Russian land. In any event, Trump posted, "I wish both countries well. We will continue to supply weapons to NATO for NATO to do what they want with them. Good luck to all." As Nick Payton Walsh of CNN noted, this statement doesn't actually change much on the ground in the war. What it does, though, is suggest that Trump has lost interest in the conflict and is attempting to wash his hands of it. The president made a similar escape from a planned meeting with Democratic leaders scheduled for Thursday to talk about keeping the government open. Yesterday, he canceled the meeting by posting on social media that, after reviewing the unserious and ridiculous demands being made by the minority radical left Democrats in return for their votes to keep our thriving country open, I have decided that no meeting with their congressional leaders could possibly be productive. He went on to claim that Democrats want to shut down the government unless they can have over $1 trillion in new spending to continue free health care for illegal aliens, and then detoured into unrelated attacks on Democrats over immigration and transgender athletes, and claimed that his historic landslide in the 2024 presidential election means the Democrats have to agree to his demands. Ben Johansson and Meredith Lee Hill of Politico report that, in fact, Trump decided to cancel the meeting at the urging of House Speaker Mike Johnson, a Republican of Louisiana, and Senate Majority Leader John Thune, a Republican of South Dakota. Sources told the journalists that the Republican lawmakers were afraid meeting with Democrats would erode Republicans' leverage in the struggle over funding the government. That funding runs out on September 30th, and Congress has not yet passed appropriations bills to keep it going. On September 19th, the House passed a continuing resolution to keep the government funded at current levels through November 21st and to provide additional money for security for Congress members. The 217 to 212 vote was largely along party lines, with one Democrat voting for the measure and two Republicans voting against it. Congress is not meeting this week, and after the measure passed, Speaker Johnson informed members that the House would not meet on the scheduled days of Monday, September 29th, or Tuesday, September 30th, thus jamming the Senate into accepting the House measure or shutting down the government. The Senate failed to pass the House measure on the 19th, with two Republicans voting no and Democrats saying they would refuse to support any measure that did not extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies that Republicans cut in their budget reconciliation bill of July and roll back some of that act's cuts to Medicaid. That budget reconciliation law, which Republicans call the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, allows the enhanced premium tax credits that made ACA coverage more affordable for households between 100% and 400% of the federal poverty level to lapse at the end of this year. The Congressional Budget Office estimated that this change will mean 4.2 million Americans will become uninsured in the next 10 years, on top of those who are expected to lose Medicaid coverage. As healthier people opt to go without insurance, premiums on those who stay in the markets are skyrocketing. Extending the subsidies, as the Democrats want, is popular even among many Republicans who recognize how hard Americans are going to be hit by rising health care costs. But other Republicans who continue to oppose the Affordable Care Act refuse even to consider such a change and are pushing off such a divisive issue. Taken together, the Democrats' demands would cost around $1 trillion, but those benefits would not go to illegal aliens. Unless they nuke the filibuster, Republicans will need 8 Democratic votes to get to the 60 votes they need to pass a continuing resolution, but they're refusing even to talk to the Democrats. In a Fox News Channel interview on September 12th, Trump said of Democrats, "There is something wrong with them. They want to give away money to this or that and destroy the country. Don't even bother dealing with them," he advised Republican lawmakers. "We will get it through because the Republicans are sticking together for the first time in a long time." Despite their determination to go it alone and their control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency, Republican leaders are working hard to pin a looming shutdown on the Democrats. The Democrats want no part of that storyline. For a guy who claims to understand the art of the deal, Donald Trump is awfully scared of negotiating one, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said. Trump and congressional Republicans control both chambers of Congress and the White House, but they'd rather shut down the government, tank the economy, and cut health care benefits than do their jobs. Rather than engaging in the hard work of negotiation, Trump appears to want to use the government for his own ends. After the outcry over the use of the Federal Communications Commission to strong-arm ABC into suspending comedian Jimmy Kimmel's television show, many Republicans insisted that the suspension was simply a business decision. Trump torpedoed that argument today when he took to social media to complain that Kimmel is back on the air. Trump did not mention Kimmel's reference to Charlie Kirk's murder, allegedly the reason for Kimmel's suspension, when he complained, "He is yet another arm of the Democratic National Committee, and to the best of my knowledge, that would be a major illegal campaign contribution." He continued, "I think we're going to test ABC out on this. Let's see how we do. Last time I went after them, they gave me $16 million. This one sounds even more lucrative." Over the weekend, acting U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Eric Siebert, a career prosecutor, resigned after he concluded there was not enough evidence of a crime to charge New York Attorney General Letitia James for alleged mortgage fraud or former FBI Director James Comey for allegedly lying to Congress. Siebert's refusal to prosecute drew Trump's wrath. On Monday, White House aide and Trump's former personal lawyer, Lindsay Halligan, who is leading the administration's review of exhibits at the Smithsonian Institution museums, took over the job. She has no experience as a prosecutor. Today, Ken Dilanian and Carol Leonnig of MSNBC reported that 3 sources have said they expect Halligan to try to get a grand jury to indict Comey before the 5-year statute of limitations on lying to Congress runs out in 6 days. Chris Strom of Bloomberg reports that the Department of Justice is also pushing forward with the case against Attorney General James. While Trump persecutes those he perceives as enemies, administration figures who have called for slashing spending both at home and for foreign aid are using taxpayer money to push their own priorities overseas. Daniel Flatley and Patrick Gillespie of Bloomberg reported today that the U.S. is preparing a $20 billion rescue package to bail out Argentina's right-wing leader Javier Milei, an ally of Donald Trump, before October elections. They are offering this financial support despite the fact that Argentina recently suspended its grain export tax, undercutting the U.S. soybean farmers who have lost their huge Chinese market because of Trump's tariff war. Within hours, China bought up Argentina's soybeans. Administration officials are also ignoring the laws Congress passed to fund foreign aid and are instead funding their own priorities. In August, the administration told Congress it was not going to spend almost $5 billion Congress had appropriated for foreign aid, prompting Susan Collins, a Republican of Maine, the chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee, to warn that any effort to rescind appropriated funds without congressional approval is a clear violation of the law. Today, Noah Robertson of the Washington Post reported that the State Department has informed Congress that it intends to redirect $1.8 billion of foreign aid funding toward America First projects, like countering Marxist anti-American regimes in Latin America, supporting U.S. immigration policies in Africa, and pursuing investments in Greenland and Ukraine, although the language of the announcement is vague enough that it is not entirely clear what these programs will do. Robertson identifies this announcement as a dramatic change from the previous bipartisan U.S. focus on promoting national security by promoting democracy and health and higher standards of living around the world through investments in institutions like the United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, which the Trump administration dismantled as soon as it took office. Top Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire, told Robertson the Trump administration is attempting to raid programs that Congress has authorized and appropriated to strengthen democracy, advance peace, and support vulnerable communities, and instead funnel that money into an unaccountable slush fund. Although Jimmy Kimmel Live was preempted in about 23% of the homes that use television, ABC said 6.26 million people tuned in to watch. Kimmel's usual television audience is about 1.42 million. ABC says another 26 million people watched his monologue on social media, including YouTube. In it, Kimmel said, "This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this." He called the administration's attempt to take him off the air un-American.
Letters from an American was written and read by Heather Cox Richardson. It was produced at Soundscape Productions, Dedham, Massachusetts. Recorded with music composed by Michael Moss.